If different instruments have different names in different places. We talk about that a lot with the guitar. For Middle Eastern music, music is not permitted in mosques in the Middle East. That is a big no-no. No. Okay? And so we have other music, which is often performed in cafes. One part about this is it has this high nasal singing quality. We'll actually see that a little bit in the Japanese music as well. The rebab is this instrument right here, this little two-stringed fiddle. You can see it's got a bow. It's bowed. And the tombak is a goblet-shaped drum. Again, it's very similar to the doumbek, which is Egyptian, I believe. So, again, in these instruments, very representative of different instruments in other cultures. Let's listen to how this music is put together. And here comes the singer. Then the violin again. And then singer. Again, I do encourage you to look for more like this. I promise you it exists. If you just look for Middle Eastern folk music, you will find a lot of great stuff. Jewish music, traditionally similar to other Middle Eastern music. However, the way in which they perform it is much different. You've all sort of seen, again, that Hollywood scene of the bar mitzvah dance, the Jewish people with the yarmulkes doing the dance, the Jewish wedding, and the breaking of the glass. Again, a lot of times these are really good outlines for how things happen. It's just a very bad example of why things happen, right? Again, realize that there's cultural significance behind everything which happens in these celebrations. Today, the music is much more diverse. Like any religious sect, there become different branches. Each branch has its own beliefs and develops its own tradition, its own musical tradition. Religious music depends on the degree of orthodoxy. Again, more strict religions do not like music. Remember, the Puritans thought that it was a waste of time. That is our original Americans who came over from Europe, right? The first other continent Americans. And again, remember, early Christian practices were much influenced by Judaism, right? Literally, the first half of the Christian Bible is the Jewish Bible. So a lot of the musical traditions were done this way as well. Be sure to listen to not just Jewish religious music, but also klezmer music. Klezmer is the brand of upbeat Jewish music with a big thumping bass. A lot of time it has a real good clarinet melody going through it. You can just type that into YouTube, klezmer music, and you'll get a good idea of the more social, less religious Jewish music. Okay, so we talked about African music, Middle Eastern music, and Jewish music. Again, please do yourselves a favor and go through and listen to examples of these. Like all of the other music that we've talked about in this semester, you cannot truly understand it unless you listen to a lot of it. Okay? And then one more chapter. Music of Asia. Well, Asia is a really big place, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay, so we have a lot to cover. Okay, the music of India, perhaps one of the most interesting and most rich and complex musical traditions are the ragas and talas of the Indian region, right? Of India. Not just the Indian region, it's the country, it's India, right? Okay? And so we have these things, right? Ragas and talas. These are just fancy ways to say ragas. Well, those are keys, right? In Western classical music, we play in different keys. In India, we play in different ragas. It's essentially a pitch collection. Talas, well, we play in different meters. And so in the music of India, talas are rhythmic cycles. Essentially saying 4/4 is equivalent to saying it's teen tal. These two are synonymous. Of course, it's a different way for them to describe it, and it has a different significance, a different meaning for their culture. Okay? Performances of Indian music are often very long. They can go like an hour to 2 to 3 hours. One raga itself might be about half an hour. They are very long pieces which incorporate a lot of improvisation. The texture, usually there's a melodic line. You can see that by the sitar here. The sitar is made famous by Ravi Shankar, is played also by George Harrison. Usually there's a drone instrument. They have these things called like sruti boxes, which are little squeeze boxes that will play only one pitch. Sometimes they even have a pre-recorded drone going on, but a lot of times there is a drone. We talked about that with the Hildegard way back in the day. And usually there's a rhythmic instrument to play the tala. Here it is 2 tabla. Please note that there are 2 different sort of brands of Indian music, Hindustani and Carnatic. They essentially fulfill the same purpose, but they use different instruments. Okay. The form of Indian music, often it starts off with a very slow, very open section of improvisation. It then goes into a very structured and rigid form, and then that is, again, pre-prescribed and is not improvised. And then it ends with usually a more open improvisatory section. Cultural outlook, it's important to know that Indian folk music is extremely important to the individual. There's a belief of some people that playing music for the wrong purpose can like violate the cosmic laws of nature. So it's really important to acknowledge the cultural significance and importance of this music, particularly of using it in the correct context. Instruments, again, I showed you the sitar and the tabla. On the last one, that's a sitar, that's a tabla. And then a lot of times there will be flutes too. Flutes, recorders, just wood instruments, wood aerophones. Okay? So, let's listen to this raga. Starts with a drone and then the flute enters. And then the tabla sets the rhythmic cycle. mention to you that though this piece, this download, is about 2.25 minutes long, ragas themselves go for a long time. Half an hour, 45 minutes. And again, performances of this Indian classical music can go for 2 or 3 hours. So just a heads up if you ever decide to do that, and you're in for a night. It's great stuff. It's real great stuff. It is long, though. Okay. So, Chinese music, again, there are cultural considerations that go along with this sorts of music. Remember that Chinese history is really long and really complex and really elaborate. And so the part that music played and how important it was is all highly documented in things like court records and in the library of the Chinese nobility. And so the importance of music, particularly for these rich families, is important to look at. One of the things that they did often is they used that pentatonic scale. And we're going to see the same thing in the music of Japan, which we're going to look at next, and then of Bali and Indonesia, which is after that. Again, a lot of these Asiatic countries use that pentatonic scale. There are a lot of different instruments in Chinese music. Again, looking over here, one is the pipa, a 4-string lute with a pear-shaped body. Again, these chordophones are found in every sort of folk music tradition. There's the erhu, which is a 2-stringed fiddle made of silk. A similar thing like that is in Japan. It is called the shamisen. So that's a silk-stringed instrument. And then again, another one, there are always flutes. There are always flutes. And particularly in this Chinese and Japanese music, we're going to get more gongs, more wood blocks, all these sorts of things that we think about as traditional Asiatic instruments. Again, the history is so rife, so rich that covering it is very difficult to do because the Chinese musical tradition has been around for at least 1,000 years. It's important to know. Japanese music, a lot of it was imported from China and Korea, the closest neighbors. Classical music is now largely abandoned in favor of Western classical and popular music. They're not doing as much Japanese traditional folk music as they used to. But there are still a lot of traditions which are very much alive. You'll notice here, this woman is playing a koto, which is a long stringed instrument. It's plucked. We would call it a zither in the most general sense. This woman over here is playing a shamisen. That's that two-stringed fiddle. And then this woman is playing a shakuhachi, which is a bamboo flute. Notice that they are dressed up as geishas. Geishas were female entertainers for the Japanese nobility. We're going to listen to Hakusen no, which is a typical classical Japanese song. Listen to the way that the singer bends some of the pitches, and also notice the nasal quality that we heard in the Sega, that Iranian tune that we just listened to. Keep in mind this uses traditional instruments and style. So here is Hakusen no. And then the flute. television shows use these things to represent the different cultures. Again, they can't tell you the significance of it or why it exists, but again, the sound is there. Okay? Balinese music. We like to talk about Bali in Indonesia because they have a very specific type of music called gamelan. A gamelan ensemble, as shown in your textbook, is a group of idiophones, metallic idiophones primarily, tuned in a pentatonic way, that is sort of it's totally unique to this set of islands. Bali and Indonesia are the only places that have this gamelan-type music. It's where it's from, and it's just a totally interesting ensemble. Again, please note that this was an ensemble for the nobility. People who are more well-off were going to be the people who created these sorts of ensembles and maintain them. There are a lot of members, and it has a lot of very expensive instruments. It uses a pentatonic scale, but there's not much harmony. The rhythm is free-sounding, and then there are times when it is extremely interlocked. And there are a lot of colorful timbres, because, again, if you look at this picture, look at all this metal. If you ever strike really resonant metal, it has a very rich tone to it. And so the gamelan ensemble takes advantage of that. Individual parts and the players are functioning as a mosaic of sound. You'll notice not many of them can play full melodies on their own instruments. And so the instruments themselves have to work together to create these longer phrases. Instruments, we have flutes that are played like recorders, but mostly we have things that are xylophone-like. These metallic idiophones, again using that proper classification, are very much like the xylophone. The kajar is a sort of, it looks like a lid, big lid to a pot. There's some great examples of that. I believe it's at the beginning of the chapter. We have a picture of that. Oh no, it's back in the introduction of the folk music. We do have a picture of someone playing the kajar. Yeah, page 403 in your book, or back in chapter 40. If you're looking at it. And drums and cymbals are a very important part of that. Let's take a listen to this gamelan ensemble so you can get an idea of this typical sound of Bali in Indonesia. Example of the Balinese gamelan. Please, again, investigate this online. There are tons of music of these groups out there. Particularly in America, Balinese ensembles are getting more popular, and you'll even see a lot of community Balinese ensembles. Gamelan, again, we call them gamelan ensembles because it's the music of Bali and Indonesia. It's not exactly right to call it Balinese, right? Of course. So guess what? This is the last slide of your entire book. We looked at music of India, China, Japan, and Bali. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. We are finished with this. Watch this. Bam. Close that PowerPoint. Save it. Don't save it. Please. Get out of here. Don't save it. That music, gone. Say goodbye. Okay? Now, that being said, you do have your final exam. And so, if anyone is there in chat, I am here to answer questions. We'll do this until you have no more questions. Okay, and so I will sit here for a little bit and answer any questions that you might have. Again, always feel free to email me. I spend a lot of time at my computer. Can you show us the study guide like you did last time? Yes, I have the study guide should be up and displaying now. That should be showing right now. And again, the study guide is uploaded to Georgia View, so there is a copy of this that you can download and look at anytime you like. Do keep in mind the forms to know are much less than before. That's because you are expected to know all of the forms that we looked at before, right? The blues form was something new that we started talking about, and the strophic form in particular is something that we talked about with folk music. I mean, when you accidentally showed us the exam, I never did that. I would never do such a dishonest thing. I would never show you the exam. But if there was an exam to show, it would look a lot like the previous exams. However, I do know that this one has 4 listening examples, whereas your last one only had 3 listening examples. There will be lots of extra credit on it again. I do promise that. Eight listening examples, remember, only pick 4 of these. Rite of Spring is the ballet music by Igor Stravinsky. Very aggressive primalism. Sergei Prokofiev and his neoclassicism in the classical style in the 19th century. Stars and Stripes Forever, the military march by John Philip Sousa. Short Ride in a Fast Machine, minimalism by American John Adams. Lost Your Head Blues by Bessie Smith, the blues. Tonight is musical theater, and then the 2 folk music examples. How long does the paper have to be? The paper has to be 3 pages. 1, 2, 3 full pages. Count them. 1, 2, 3. And then throw. Would you consider reopening the older quizzes? I'm not sure I'm the only one who missed a few. There will probably not. I will probably not reopen those. I will probably not reopen the papers. I will look at the grades as they are in the grade book, and it is possible that I will reopen those. You definitely will have to show up to lecture next Thursday to find out. If I do reopen any quizzes, it will be for a very short period, and you will have to be at the lecture on Thursday to find that out. Is double-spaced okay for the final paper? Yes, double-spaced. Sorry, it should be 3 pages double-spaced. I don't want, well, I would read 3 pages single-spaced, but I don't want to put you through that, right? I want you to do a nice double-spaced paper so you're not cursing Dr. Gworek in your sleep, because that's how you get bad juju. Dr. Gworek needs no bad juju right now. The instruction said bibliography required. Does that mean works cited with a paragraph under each of them, or do you just want the sources? Just the sources is fine. As long as you cite your sources in a bibliography, properly formatted, doesn't matter which way, right? Chicago, Turabian, MLA, any of those are fine. You don't have to tell me why you used a source, right? You don't have to tell me why. I'll probably be able to figure it out from the title of the book or article that you looked at. So just a bibliography, not a work cited. Okay, it looks like we're running out of questions in chat. I will sit here for 1 more minute, staring at you through my little camera, doing my best Derek Zoolander impression. Wait for it. It's blue steel. That's definitely not a Magnum. Oh, I can watch myself make silly faces in my own camera as I watch chat. It's going to be great. Oh, there it is. Wow, amazing. Okay, great. I see no more questions in chat. Again, you have your paper is due on the 19th. You have a test to take Tuesday or Wednesday. It's open for all 48 hours. And then you have your concert reports, which are due the 26th. We'll go over the final exam and any test questions that you have on Thursday. And hey, congratulations. We're almost out of it. Thank you again, everyone, for coming by today. And we will see you on Tuesday or Thursday. Have a good day.